The global economy is sitting on a $305 trillion debt bomb, a number so massive that it breaks the human ability to comprehend it. We can imagine a million. Some of us can imagine a billion. A trillion already stretches the mind, but 305 trillion? It's not a number anymore, it's a force of nature. Yet this unimaginable figure isn't floating far above ordinary life. It shapes your future, your rent, your mortgage, your savings, your job, even the political stability of the country you live in. This isn't a statistic buried in a spreadsheet. It's the most dangerous financial buildup in human history. And like every bomb created by human hands, it has a fuse. The question is no longer whether it explodes. The question is when and how violently. To understand how large this problem really is, imagine everything humanity produces in 1 year. Every product manufactured, every service delivered, every salary paid, every truckload shipped, every field harvested, every line of code written. Now multiply that entire output by 3. That's the weight of the world's debt today. No civilization, no empire, no kingdom, no modern nation has ever carried debt at this magnitude. Not Rome, not Britain, not Japan, not even the United States at the peak of its post-war expansion. We are navigating economic territory with no precedent and no map. And the scariest part is that this wasn't a sudden explosion. It was a slow, quiet, comfortable slide into dependency. Debt didn't rise because people suddenly became irresponsible. It rose because the global economic model broke decades ago, and instead of fixing it, world leaders plastered over the cracks with borrowed money. Debt feels good at first. It gives governments the ability to promise more without raising taxes. It gives corporations the ability to inflate their stock prices without improving their products. It gives households the ability to maintain a lifestyle their real wages no longer support. Debt is a time machine. It pulls tomorrow's income into today's problems. But eventually, tomorrow arrives and the bill is due. The world's debt sits on 3 major pillars: government debt, corporate debt, and household debt. Each one is dangerously swollen. Each one depends on interest rates staying low forever. Each one is cracking at the same time. Governments borrowed to fund wars, aging populations, stimulus programs, and endless political promises. Instead of raising taxes or cutting spending, they borrowed year after year, convincing themselves the bill would never come due. Corporations borrowed trillions not to innovate or expand, but to buy back their own shares. Stock markets soared, CEOs celebrated, bonuses exploded, while real productivity barely moved. It was prosperity built on leverage, not strength. Households watched wages stagnate while the cost of living climbed higher every year. Housing, healthcare, energy, food, everything essential became more expensive. People didn't borrow because they wanted more. They borrowed because the system forced them to. Then came the architects of the entire supercycle, central banks. For more than 40 years, every tremor in the global economy was met with the same response: cut interest rates, make money cheaper, keep borrowing alive. When markets panicked, central banks printed money. When bubbles burst, they inflated new ones. When governments overspent, central banks quietly backstopped the consequences, and for decades, it worked. Every crisis ended the same way: cheaper money, bigger bailouts, more debt. The world became conditioned to believe that central banks could solve anything. But in 2020, that illusion finally cracked. A global pandemic forced governments into the largest borrowing spree in modern history. Trillions poured into the system. Liquidity exploded. Asset prices soared far beyond economic reality. People celebrated the rise in wealth without realizing the foundation underneath them was beginning to fracture. Then inflation arrived with brutal speed. In 2021 and 2022, prices spiraled upward in a way advanced economies hadn't seen in decades. Central banks were cornered. They had only one tool left: raise interest rates, fast and high. But the global economy wasn't built for 5% interest rates. It was built for zero. So when money suddenly became expensive, the math broke instantly. Governments found themselves paying more in interest than in healthcare or defense. Corporations faced refinancing cliffs they couldn't survive. Households were crushed by rising mortgages, exploding credit card debt, and shrinking real wages. The fuse of the debt bomb was no longer hidden. It was burning in plain sight. The interest rate shock wasn't just an inconvenience. It was the first stage of a global economic stress test, one the world was wildly unprepared for. Because when the cost of money rises, everything built on cheap money begins to crack. Governments feel it first. Corporations feel it next. Households feel it the hardest. Suddenly, the world realized a chilling truth. The system had never been designed for normal interest rates. It had been engineered for an era of near-zero borrowing costs that was never meant to last. As rates climbed, a wave of corporate refinancing cliffs appeared. Companies that borrowed at 1 or 2% years earlier were now being forced to refinance at 6 or 7%. That difference doesn't just hurt profit margins, it eliminates them entirely. Entire industries, real estate, telecommunications, manufacturing, found themselves staring at debt walls they could not climb. Meanwhile, households faced their own crisis. Mortgage payments doubled. Credit card balances hit historic highs. Car loans became unaffordable. And while prices rose everywhere, wages stood still, stuck in the mud while living costs sprinted ahead. This is the first phase of a debt bomb. Pressure building slowly, silently, relentlessly. But then comes a shift, almost invisible at first, when financial institutions begin to sense danger. Banks start tightening credit standards. Investors grow cautious. Funds hold onto cash instead of lending it. Businesses postpone investments. Consumers reduce spending. And piece by piece, the oxygen of the global economy, liquidity, begins to thin. This is the second phase of the debt bomb, the liquidity squeeze. It starts quietly with small cracks. A missed corporate payment here, a struggling regional bank there, a government bond auction that doesn't go well. Each incident alone seems manageable, but together they reveal a deeper structural truth. The system is far more fragile than anyone wants to admit. Liquidity doesn't disappear slowly, it disappears suddenly. One day the financial system is functioning normally. The next day, credit freezes and panic spreads. This is exactly what happened during the UK pension crisis in 2022. It happened during the US regional banking episode in 2023. It happened in China's collapsing real estate sector. Small explosions on the edge of a much larger bomb. And when liquidity goes, defaults rise. Not dramatically at first, but steadily, rhythmically, like the ticking of a countdown clock. One corporation fails to refinance. One government cannot roll over its debt. One bank's losses begin to infect others. This is how financial contagion spreads. Not with fire, but with shadows. Not with noise, but with silence. Not with collapse, but with hesitation. And then comes the third phase, political panic. Governments suddenly realize they are trapped. Raise taxes, the public revolts, cut spending, social unrest ignites. Borrow more, markets punish them with higher interest rates. So they turn to the only institution they can pressure, central banks. Behind closed doors, governments whisper the same desperate message. We can't survive these rates, cut them, print money, do something. But central banks don't control reality. They only control the cost of borrowing. And when they lower rates too soon, inflation roars back. When they raise rates too high, defaults explode. Every option becomes a trap. Every move creates another crisis. This is the moment when policymakers stop thinking analytically and start responding emotionally. Markets can sense this shift instantly. Confidence erodes, volatility rises, investors run towards safety, banks retreat into self-preservation mode, pressure builds, until finally something breaks. It may be a major corporation, it may be a sovereign government, it may be a large financial institution. Sometimes it's a combination of all three. And when that moment hits, the fourth phase detonates. The confidence collapse. Confidence is the invisible glue holding the global financial system together. It is not printed by central banks. It is not legislated by parliaments. It is not stored in vaults. It exists only in belief. And when belief dies, everything falls apart at terrifying speed. A single default can trigger global panic. Currencies plunge, stock markets crash, bond yields spike, banks freeze lending. People rush to secure cash, gold, or anything they think will hold value. Once confidence breaks, no policy is strong enough, no speech reassuring enough, and no bailout large enough to fully restore stability. The illusion of safety is gone, and beneath it lies the raw, unfiltered fragility of a world built on decades of borrowed time. History is filled with this pattern. Slow buildup, sudden collapse, Rome, Ottoman Empire, Britain in the interwar period, Japan in the 1990s, Greece after 2008. Each collapse unique, yet all driven by the same root flaw: debt growing faster than the ability to repay it. But today's crisis is different. It's not one nation, not one sector, not one class of borrower. It's the entire world, leveraged together, intertwined, synchronized, and exposed. And the math behind it doesn't negotiate, it doesn't compromise, it doesn't care about politics, ideology, or optimism. Debt that grows faster than income eventually eats the system alive. Eventually, the global debt bomb reaches a place where numbers stop mattering and only direction matters. Debt grows faster than incomes, faster than productivity, faster than tax revenues, faster than the real economy beneath it. At first, governments pretend this imbalance is temporary. Then they insist it is manageable. Eventually, they stop talking about it at all. Silence becomes policy. But the math keeps ticking like a heartbeat in the background, reminding every nation of a truth they don't want to face. You cannot borrow your way out of a debt problem. When the burden becomes too heavy, governments run out of painless options. They can inflate the problem away by letting prices rise faster than interest rates. They can default and wipe out pensions, savings, and investments. They can force interest rates artificially low and trap savers in financial repression. Or they can devalue their currency and quietly transfer the pain to the entire population. Every path carries consequences. Every path alters the structure of society. Every path breaks something people once assumed was permanent. Inflation erodes purchasing power, slowly dissolving the real value of savings. A default destroys national credibility, raising borrowing costs for decades. Financial repression bleeds savers quietly, forcing them to absorb losses the government refuses to acknowledge. Currency devaluation reduces international purchasing power and pushes the cost of imported goods higher. If this sounds bleak, it's because debt crises rarely come with clean endings. They are messy by nature, they are political by nature, and they always distribute pain unevenly. But the most dangerous path of all, the path the world is currently on, is denial. Denial is seductive. It offers politicians the chance to win one more election. It allows corporations to report one more quarter of artificial earnings. It lets households pretend their mortgage will somehow become easier next year. Denial delays the crisis, but also amplifies the explosion. Because as long as leaders refuse to confront the structural problem, debt keeps rising, refinancing keeps tightening, and interest costs keep climbing. Eventually, the system reaches what economists politely call a constraint. But the truth is less academic. The system hits a wall. And when that wall is hit, the shift from stability to collapse happens quickly, far faster than most people expect. It won't take months. Sometimes it doesn't even take weeks. In the modern world of algorithmic trading, digital markets, and instantaneous liquidity evaporation, it can happen in hours. A bond auction fails. A major bank announces losses. A government admits it cannot refinance. And within a single news cycle, markets freeze, currencies plunge, and the world wakes up to a new reality. People will be shocked. Commentators will say, "Nobody could have predicted this." Politicians will blame each other. News anchors will act surprised. But the signs were always there. Every graph showed debt rising faster than income. Every report warned about refinancing cliffs. Every economist noted the fragility created by ultra-low rates. Every crisis over the past 20 years revealed the same weakness. The global system is leveraged far beyond what it can withstand. The $305 trillion debt bomb is not a mystery. It is not an accident. It is the cumulative result of decades of decisions made by governments, corporations, and individuals who all believe the same comforting lie: that debt does not matter if you never look down. But the world is beginning to look down. The cracks are visible, the fuse is burning, and the illusion of infinite borrowing is coming to an end. The debt bomb will detonate, not because of one catastrophic event, but because the weight of accumulated promises finally becomes too heavy to carry. We built this bomb ourselves, layer by layer, loan by loan, bailout by bailout, rate cut by rate cut. And now, whether we like it or not, the fuse is already lit. The only question left is how much time remains before the world runs out of road.